Hi, my name is Libo Weinstein, and in this video, I'm going to talk to you about managing anxiety during stressful time, and I'm going to provide you with 5 simple steps. And my name is Limor, and I'm a licensed psychotherapist located in Manhattan, and I help people with different situations and providing them with the right coping skills. And I'm hoping that today I'll be able to give you some ideas of how to manage your anxiety and how to lead a healthier lifestyle. Okay, so we're going to go over the following 5 tips, and the tip number 1 is knowledge is power. So basically, the idea is that when you learn about what's happening, when you learn about what it is that you're feeling, what is the stress that you are experiencing, how is it how does it feel in your body, what are the symptoms, you will feel better. So I feel like this is one of the most important steps to be aware of. And the second tip is to understand the difference between reacting and responding to a situation, and how that can make you feel so much better and so much more in control. And the tip number 3 is I'm going to give you 4 simple breathing techniques, and hopefully this will kind of give you another tool to have in your toolbox, so when you feel anxious you can use one of these breathing techniques. And the fourth tip is to understand the idea of the concept of cognitive behavioral therapy, and how your thoughts affect your emotion and the behavior, and how you can redirect your thoughts and feel better, and the behavior will change. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. And the tip number 5 is we're going to just kind of talk about how, if you just accept certain situations, if you practice mindfulness and make healthy choices, it could be with food, it could be with exercise, it could be with whatever it is, how that can, help you feel better too. And hold on one second. All right. So I think if we're going to start with just you taking a couple of moments to think about what is it that you are stressed about, right? So just think about a situation where you were very, very stressful. What was it? And how do you feel? Like, how do you respond? Even take a second to write it down. Like, what is how's your body responding, right? It could be very short or very long, but I think it's important that you kind of take a moment to think about it and write it down. And, that would just kind of give us a good start. And so, as I said, the important, the very important thing to understand is that, what is happening, right? So when we are stressed, what are we feeling? And I think I always like to kind of use this cycle of anxiety, because what is happening is that we are experiencing stress, right? Like with this epidemic and coronavirus, and everybody's feeling when is this going to end? And it's a very, very stressful situation. And then we automatically respond to what's happening. Like there's physical symptoms, our body's responding, and then there is just, everything is happening really, really, really fast. And we don't really get to step back and think, wait, what is really happening? So I think it's important to understand that it is okay that you are reacting this way. I mean, this is just what's happening, and kind of identify what is it that I'm thinking about, right? Because we are, our first instinct is to just kind of freak out and freeze and just kind of almost be in a mode where we're not able to, to respond. So I think it's important to just kind of ask yourself, what is happening? What am I thinking about, right? So I feel like one of the biggest things that people have told me, my patients have been telling me that they're, it's like the feeling of like uncertainty, like when is this going to happen, and the financial stress, the kids stress, like so many different things together. But I actually think that if you're developing the awareness about stress, you will find that this can actually serve you very well, because I love stress. I mean, it drives me, it makes me motivated. It just, it really kind of puts me in a much better space because I can have better control when I'm feeling stressed. And I always like to kind of put this out there, because I don't know how many of you have heard of the 4F. So these are basically how many people respond, right? So it's either fight, flight, freeze, or faint. I like this picture. I think it's actually pretty cool. And this is usually like how we react to stress. And so when you're thinking about stress, right, like what is stress, right? So basically it's, there are a lot of demands, right, from the environment, from wherever it is. There's all this stress, and as human beings we don't have the resources, right, to deal with the stress. And that's why I think it's crucial to have the right skills and the right tools to be able to handle the stress and the anxiety. And once you have it, once you're equipped with very basic skills, you can feel better, you can feel more in control, and then you will kind of have more of a balance between, the demand and the resources, and you're not going to feel as much stress. And so, it's important to kind of recognize the signs of stress, right? And as I said, like there is the cognitive part of stress where you are feeling like you're thinking, oh my God, what's going to happen? How am I going to be able to, stay home this whole time, cooped in my apartment? And then there's the physical aspect, there's the emotional aspect, and then of course there's also the behavioral aspect, right? Like, how do you respond? What is the actual behavior when you're feeling stressed, right? Are you biting your nails? Are you, eating too much? Are you sleeping too much? A lot of people are, drink a lot of alcohol or use different forms of medication to help them cope with the stress. So I think it's very important to kind of really get in touch with what is it that I'm feeling, right? A lot of people are feeling stomach, like they're feeling kind of, stomach discomfort or muscle tension or, different symptoms that like they don't really pay attention to, and they just kind of ignore, or they look at it as, oh my God, like this is what I'm feeling and it's terrible. And they keep kind of staying in this loop of anxiety and stress. So what I'm asking you to do is to just simply be aware of what is it that's happening when I'm feeling stressed, when I'm feeling anxious, right? And so the tip number 2, isn't that picture really cute? Is, basically to understand the difference between reacting and responding, right? So if you can respond to a situation versus just react to a situation, right, then you are going to feel so much better and very different, right? So let's take, for example, if, I'm just trying to think about a very, like listening to the news about, this situation and the stress, and like kind of reacting by like, oh my God, what's going to happen? And not really, stepping back and saying, wait a minute, like, how can I respond to this situation, right? So when you respond, you asking questions, you consider the consequences, right? So you're not like pushing it away or avoiding what's happening. Instead, you're kind of like stepping back and you're thinking, wait a minute, okay, so this is what I'm watching. what is the worst that can happen? And even when you ask yourself questions like, what if I'm not going to be able to, you know, go back to work for the next month? What if my kids are going to be home for the next 3 months? Like, what if, instead of just kind of like being carried away and oh my God, and like your body's responding and I mean reacting, you would be very curious and you would consider, what if I'm not going to go back to work in the next month, right? What if my mom, who lives so far away, would, you know, God forbid, get sick? And then you actually are able to answer the question and say, all right, what if, like, so I'm going to be home. And then you really literally come up with different answers that, even if you don't like the answers and even if they're negative, at least you are kind of looking at it in a different way. You're asking questions. You are very curious about what's happening versus just allowing things to just happen and you are losing control. So I think this is like a very, very important, important distinction to make. And when you do that, you really learn to feel so much better. And, like you're able to manage the situation a lot better. And this is just kind of like, I just put another example of like when you react, you just kind of like losing control. You are kind of losing yourself in a way, right? So, and when you are responding, what you actually do is you stop, you take a deep breath, and you're trying to really assess, wait, so what is happening? And then you are not really trying to get rid of the stress. Instead, you're curious. You want to learn from the stress and how it can help serve you well, right? And you are making a lot of changes that will put you in a much better position instead of shutting all this system down like the fight or flight, right? And all right, now we're getting into the tip number 3. And we're going to go over 4 simple techniques. And in order to do that, I'm going to ask that you first close your eyes so I can close my eyes with you. So I'm going to ask that you close your eyes for just 10 seconds. And I'm going to ask that you simply observe your breath. Think about your breathing pattern. How does it feel to be in your body right at this moment? And then you can open your eyes. And I think, just kind of like, this is like the base situation where you are simply noticing your breath and like asking yourself, like, how is it that I'm breathing, right? So I think, what we can do right now is if you could just simply put your left hand on your chest and your right hand on your belly. And I'm going to ask that you take a deep breath. And just pay attention to what part of your body is being raised, right? For a lot of people, they raise the upper part of their body, right? So it's more of a chest breathing. But actually, the right way to breathe is from your belly. It's called diaphragmatic breathing, right? So when you take a deep breath, the goal is to raise your belly and, make sure that the actual part of your body that's being raised is your belly. And the best way actually to do it is to lay down on your bed or lay down on the floor and just take anything that you can find, a remote control or whatever it is you have, and just place it on your belly. And then take a deep breath and make sure that your belly is that part of your body is being raised. And I feel like if you just kind of do this, you'll be able to, at least have the foundation for breathing the right way. And we breathe about 23,000 times a day. But no one teaches us really how to breathe the right way. And if we can just kind of like, as the first step, learn how to pay attention to our breathing and then breathe, like in, kind of like really make sure that you raise your belly, that would be a very, very good start. And there's actually a simple way of kind of figuring out if you are breathing from your chest or from your belly. So if you put your hand in front of your mouth, and if you breathe really fast and you go, try that. If you do that, you would notice that your breathing is actually warmer. And now if you breathe from your belly, right, if you breathe the right way and you take a deep breath and then you exhale, you would notice that when you exhale, the hair is a little bit cooler because it takes a little bit longer to come out. And now we're going to move to even breathing, right? So what you do now is you inhale and you count to 4. And then when you exhale, you count to 4, right? We're not going to do, there are so many different types of breathing and there are more complicated forms of breathing, but all I'm asking you to do is to inhale and count to 4, and then exhale and count to 4. So we're going to do it together right now. And again, if you want to continue to put your hand on the belly, and we're going to inhale 2, 3, 4, and exhale 2, 3, 4. Let's do it one more time. Take a deep breath. 2, 3, 4, and exhale 2, 3, 4. All right. I hope that feels, you feel a little bit more relaxed. And I think the idea is, again, to feel like you have more control over your breathing. So when you get into a situation when you feel like you're losing control and you don't know what to do and how to respond, like you can simply like step back and kind of think, okay, take a deep breath, get yourself to breathe the right way, be aware of your breathing, and then come up with a way to breathe in an even way. And the last breathing technique that I will teach you, it's called focus word breathing. And basically, it's a very simple technique, and you can use the even breathing or you can just breathe however you want. But the most important thing is when you inhale, you think about something positive. So, trying to think about, I'm going to think about, you think about your own positive word, right? It could be joy, it could be love, it can be health, it can be whatever it is that you wish for. It could be financial success, whatever it is you want to kind of bring in your body, right? So you basically think about the word, and when you inhale, you're going to say that word, right? So take a deep breath. Say that positive word that you have in mind. Even hold your breath for a couple of seconds. Just hold on to that word that you have in mind. And then when you exhale, I want you to exhale whatever it is negative that you're holding in your body. If it's stress, if it's somebody said something bad to you, somebody annoyed you, anything that you can think of that you're holding in your body and it is bothering you, I want you to breathe it out. And one of the most, I like to think about, like when I'm holding onto like negative thoughts or negative ideas or whatever it is, I always remind myself that like I don't want to rent space in my head to anything that is, anything that is not serving me well, anything that is not productive. So, you kind of learn to let go of, get rid of all this negativity from your body and clear the space for much more positive things that you can bring. And when we get into, the next step, you will understand how so much of it is practice. Like, you always think that you don't have control over what's happening, but actually you do. And the more you practice doing whatever it is you're doing, the better you get at it, you internalize it better, and then you are feeling better. And this is, I feel like, like a very important thing to understand when you are breathing, when we're activating, when we're taking a deep breath and we're activating the parasympathetic system, right? So if you think about our nervous system as like two, it's more complicated than that, but we'll just kind of simplifying by saying that there are two systems. I mean, sympathetic and parasympathetic, right? Or actually, if you simplify it to rest and digest system, when you breathe properly, when we are activating the parasympathetic system, we're able to feel much better. We're basically saying, to the calm system, like, all right, now it's time for you to work. Let's work that system, instead of like, constantly being on like the stress system and feeling like, there's like nothing you can do. You're out of control. So when you're feeling like all the stress, if you just take a deep breath, what you are actually doing is you're activating the parasympathetic system, and these two systems cannot really work together. So at the beginning, it feels like very challenging to do, but the more you do it, the more you feel like, you're in control, and the more calm you feel. So, try it and see how you feel. And now we're going to move to one of my most favorite techniques and I have a lot of advanced training in cognitive behavior therapy, and this understanding this model like changed my life. I've suffered with eating disorders and anxiety for over 10 years, since 14 to 24, and living with anxiety was like my normal, right? And basically this whole concept is about our thoughts affect our emotions and the behavior. And so, for example, with my experience, what I was thinking about is, I'm fat, I'm stupid, I'm ugly. And, like all these negative thoughts that I was kind of stuck in this loop, right? Like, it made me feel terrible. It made me feel anxious. It made me feel sad. It made me feel stressed. And then what would happen, the behavior was restricting first, right? And then binging and purging and using medication and all sorts of behaviors that were not productive for me and put me in a very, very negative space. So I want you to just take a moment and think about like a thought that you have, right? That doesn't serve you well, right? So think about, what is it that you are thinking about that is making you feel that negative feeling, right? And write it down, or just, like, be aware of that thought. And then how is that making you feel, right? Like, what is that, like, like, what is the feeling and what is the body? How is your body respond, right? If I'm telling myself all these negative things, I'm obviously going to feel really bad. And then the behavior is going to be very negative. So if I am now going to kind of like have this awareness, all right, I'm telling myself all these negative things and they make me feel really bad, then the emotion is bad. So how can I now tell myself something more positive, right? So, for example, in my situation, I've learned to tell myself that I am beautiful. And maybe I'm not the smartest person in the world, but I am smart and I am kind and I'm a good person and I don't have to be perfect. I'm good just the way I am. And at the beginning, it feels very, very fake. It feels like, what am I telling myself? I don't really believe in it, right? Like, I'm just making it up. But I promise that when you practice redirecting your thoughts over and over and over again, you will feel better, and then the behavior will be reduced. Whatever is the negative behavior, if you are binging and purging, if you're drinking alcohol, if you are biting your nails, if you are screaming, right? Whatever it is, the behavior will change. And according to science, if you practice this behavior anywhere from 12 to 36 times, you actually have much higher chances of changing, being able to change your thoughts and redirect them, and also internalize that, which is very important. And everything, most of the skills and tools that I use, they're evidence-based tools, evidence-based techniques, and there is a lot of science behind them. So when I say that if you practice your thoughts, if you learn to redirect your thoughts into a more positive thoughts, right? And you feel better, and then the behavior will change. The more you practice doing this, what you're going to do basically is you're going to break the cycle of negative thinking, the cycle of patterns that you have developed since very, very young age. And I would love for you to practice and like do it over, even if it feels like it's fake at the beginning. You will feel better. I mean, when I first stood in front of the mirror and told myself, like, you are beautiful, you are kind, it felt so fake. But over time, I found that when I looked at myself and I told myself all these kind things, all these beautiful, loving, kind things, I really did believe in them. And I felt so much better and so much in control. So I hope that this tip will help you feel better and help you gain more control. And the tip number 5 is just really practice mindfulness, right? And what is mindfulness? Everybody's saying mindfulness and they're throwing this word around, but how do you really practice mindfulness? So I'm going to use mindful eating as an example, but before that, I'm going to ask you to, we're going to do a very brief mindfulness exercise. So I'm going to ask that you close your eyes. And again, you can pay attention to your breathing. And now I'm going to ask that you simply pay attention to your thoughts. And the whole idea of mindfulness is being in the moment and paying attention without judging yourself, right? So you can either have your eyes closed or eyes open. But I'm going to ask that you pay attention to what is it that you're thinking about? What is it that you're feeling? And if you find that your thoughts are wandering, if you find that you really cannot do this, don't judge yourself for having these thoughts. Simply pay attention to your thoughts and even label them as thoughts. They're just thoughts. And many times our thoughts are not even right. They're not serving us well. So if we just simply pay attention to them, and most importantly, don't judge yourself for having these thoughts. And if your eyes are still closed, you might find that you are distracted. You might hear noises. You might, have a lot of things going on, but simply be aware of it and bring your attention back to being in this moment and focusing on whatever it is you're doing. And I hope that you got to kind of like experience that, idea of like, I'm right here, but maybe some of you want to be doing other things, whatever it is you are thinking about, the whole concept of like, all right, I'm here in this moment. And how can I practice being mindful? How can I practice, being in this moment without judging myself for it? And really, the more you do it, the more you practice doing this, the better you actually get at it. For me, it was one of the most challenging things to do is to be able to be in the moment, because my brain was just always kind of going, right? We all live on an autopilot with the electronics, with whatever it is that's happening. But if you simply kind of, practice being in the moment and focus on whatever it is you're doing without judging yourself, you will feel so much better. You'll feel so much calmer. And according to science, you can actually change the structure of your brain. You can actually, create like physical changes by practicing mindfulness. And my specialty is eating disorders, and that's why I kind of put this exercise of mindful eating. And I think that it is also because we eat, right? Especially now, people find themselves, you're home all the time, and everybody's buying so much food. And I thought that this is a good exercise. So basically, again, the whole concept of using mindfulness with food is, or drinks, right? Like, so for example, I have this cup of coffee here that I didn't finish on the morning. And you can basically, use all your senses. That's why I love using food in mindfulness too, because you can smell it, you can taste it, you can really practice, being in the moment with whatever it is you're doing. And again, if you find that you have distractions, if you are like, want to leave and run away and do something else, then you bring your attention back to whatever it is you're doing without judging yourself. And again, the more you do it, the better you get at it. So just think about like things that you do that you can practice mindfulness. Another one that I like is, when we brush our teeth, right? I brush my teeth and I'm thinking about all the things that I have to do. But when I kind of make a conscious decision to use mindfulness, then I bring my attention back to like, okay, I'm brushing my teeth. I'm going to use all my senses, and I'm going to simply put my thoughts away just for a few seconds. And I promise you, you're going to feel so much better when you do it, and so much happier, because what this will translate into is that when you are in a relationship, when you are having interactions with other people, you will be able to be more present, because you'll be training your brain to really just be, and to really listen, and to be able to have a better control over your stress and anxiety. And I hope that this helps you and makes you feel better. There's no picture over here, but basically this is kind of a continuation of the mindfulness and accepting that right now, right at this moment, right now, this is a situation. So with this pandemic, with the COVID-19, with the stress of the coronavirus, this part of mindfulness can just mean that, what, right at this moment, maybe we cannot change our thoughts, maybe we cannot change whatever is happening but we're simply going to accept that this is what it is. And we're not going to try to change it. We're not going to try to, drive ourselves crazy. I'm simply going to accept that right now I have to be in my apartment for whatever, however long it is, right? And how can I make the most out of it, right? So when you accept something, then your baseline is healthier, your baseline is better, right? And then it opens your heart to more positive thoughts and more loving thoughts. Again, if we use the example of myself, right? If, let's say, like, I wanted to change, right? I wanted to be skinnier, or I wanted to have different color hair, or I wanted to have longer legs, or whatever it is that I wanted, right? So what I do is I simply accept that, hey, this is me. This is this is who I was meant to be, you know, and I'm okay just the way I am, right? I'm not perfect. I have scars. I have like all sorts of things, right? But I am who I am, and I accept myself for that. And that really kind of paves the way to more love and more, more kind thoughts. And I think that when you learn to do that, you really will feel so much better, because you are not going to feel the pressure to do things, to change what to change what you really cannot, whatever it is. And that's it. I just kind of like that last slide, so I put it there. Isn't that cute, actually? And oh, we're going backwards, but okay. So I am thanking you for watching, and I wish for all of you to feel better, to be able to have better control and manage your stress better. And thank you so much, and I'm sending love to everyone. Bye.